Good morning, Robert.
Good morning.
Is it just going to be us two?
That would be interesting. Oh, there,
Hi, Marinelli.
Hi, Fran.
How are you?
Doing good. So
Robert,
I,
feel free to chime in.
sorry.
Feel free to chime in with some of the questions. If nobody else is on by 10 after, we're going to call it a day
Okay.
because we're not covering anything to do with .loop or like the contracts. So if they don't really have an interest in uh, answering questions and stuff like that, so.
Hope you didn't mind my sending that email.
Oh no, that was perfect. I did remind her. I mean, it has gone out there, but and I'll say something here that if somebody feels that something has not been reported properly, that they should reach out to their manager because it can't be changed on the Garden State
Right.
after, Thursday, and they really don't want to wait till the last day, right?
'Cause we've had some issues in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Agents who didn't do it, and suddenly, when they're getting ready to do their circle of excellence, they're like, "Oh, this was wrong. It needs to be changed." And it's like, no, can't do it.
Can't do it. In New Jersey, we don't make those changes.
No.
I got these questions from this thing, this little
Oh,
box that says exactly what to uh, role play. And I did this. I have a newer agent in my office, and I did this on Saturday with her. And I was like, yeah, this would be good just as a refresher for some people. Of course, I felt bad because she was so stumped by so many of the questions, but I was like, okay, you know,
well, I think it's good for her to find out,
yeah.
realize that there's a lot more to this.
You have the lights as your background.
There's a picture I took. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Very nice.
Yeah, it's
Who says you have to go to Alaska to see them, right?
it was pretty amazing. I gotta say that I was glad that I decided to my wife and I jump in the car and drive only about 8 minutes away from our house.
Oh,
And
nice.
was started talking to the guy next to me, and he pointed out if you look through your camera on your phone, you'll see it because I wasn't seeing anything. And then so I took out my camera, and there it was. So it was really exciting.
Here's everybody coming on. It's such a busy day today. I had a board meeting here at Greater Bergen because that was changed. I mean, everybody, it's very difficult to change schedules once they happen. So I'm in the board office. It's a
Oh,
little dark in here, but they gave me an office to use for this. Good morning, everyone. We'll just give everybody else another minute or two to sign on. Hey, Fran,
Good morning.
how's everything going?
Okay, taking it one day at a time. How about you?
Yeah, just a bit busy lately.
Oh, uh-huh.
Doing
Hopefully
the,
in a good way.
yeah, been
That's
busy.
good.
Okay, we'll give it one more minute. I think people are afraid they might get called on this morning.
But today's more like a regroup session, right?
Yeah, I mean,
In a
we
way,
need
right?
we need to step away from .loop a little bit and
Yeah,
This is just going to be
just kind of, talk about some other things for a while.
yeah.
And so, you know,
Sounds
let's
good.
yeah, plus I have a big reminder for those that are on the Garden State MLS. That is kind of important as
Mhm.
we approach this time of year.
it's interesting. A few years back, we used to do these sitting around a conference table with Rob looking right at you.
Yeah. One of my agents wants to do like a networking group, maybe with some agents from other offices, get together and I think that's a great idea. I have to talk to Donna about how we could set that up. I don't think they want the managers involved in it. I think they just want to have their own kind of, discussion, but that's good.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, good morning. I'm Fran Blakely. For those of you that don't know me, I am the manager of the Franklin Lakes office, and it's really great to see you today. Adona is traveling and not able to do the mastermind. So I thought we would step away from our dot loop sessions a little bit, not to say that our forms and everything are not important. They certainly are important. And I think dot loop is running relatively well. I did notice one or two things this week that somehow I don't know how they get, a little bit askew, but when Adona's back next week, I'll certainly bring them up. And if there's anything that you are experiencing trouble with dot loop, please, you can put it in the chat. I think Marinelli, can you take a picture of the chat when it's over in case there's any of those questions there, and then I can address them and answer them? Would you be able to do that for me?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Okay. So what we're going to do today is a little bit of something that I have this box of wonderful cards, and it says exactly what to role play. So in order to do this successfully, we need a little bit of volunteerism, or maybe I'll call on, some of the people that I know to answer these questions. But I'm going to set a question out there, and I'm going to look for somebody to try and give me the answer. There's the only wrong answers would be those that would be discriminatory or, something like that. And, we don't want to be negative. These questions relate to doing listings. They relate to working with buyers. So we have a variety of questions that I'll be setting out there. So I might plan on calling some of like my friend Tech to maybe answer the first question. I'll put you on the spot.
Okay.
So this question is, you're sitting at a listing, and this is the objection that the seller gives you, okay? Shouldn't we price it higher to leave room to negotiate? Fran, can you
Well,
give us
yeah,
a response?
so my explanation, I've had that before. I said, you can, but well, if they say shouldn't we do it higher, I would say, you know what? I think we have to go over what's going on in the market first. Yes, I understand your neighbor bought, sold their house for such and such, and your house is just as comparable. But if we look back at, sometimes we'll look through the whole, a few of the comps in the area. I do show them, like, this is where they started, the list price, and that's how they got to their final price. So now if you start at your final price, all these buyers that are out there, I consider all buyers lately educated buyers because they could get all the information online. And, if you start high, there's going to be expectations. And will you meet those expectations, and are you willing to wait on the market, wait around? I think the best strategy these days is to find that sweet spot where we start, which means, it might have to be a little bit lower, but not expecting to sell that low, but to be able to bring in the buyers, kind of like as bait, bring in those buyers, and they're the ones who, compete against with all the offer, compete against each other to raise the price. So, we could start where you would like, but it's not always the case where, I want to start, I want to start high so I could negotiate lower. When you start high, you're not going to be negotiating higher. That's the fact these days in the marketplace. I don't know. It just depends on the, seller at the time.
Great, great. Can I have anyone else want to jump in and give a response? Raise your hand or some you. I think Fran hit the nail on the head. First of all, really, right? It depends on the market that we
Yes.
are in. And right now we're in the kind of market where people are, if you price it aggressively, you're going to have probably multiple offers going over. And the one thing that I always kind of say is that, sometimes buyers or buyers, they don't always tell the truth. They don't always have the limits that they say that they have, right? I don't know if any of you have worked with a buyer like that, but I have, who they'll say, I don't want to look at anything over 500,000. And then we show them something at 499 and they go in with an offer of 550. So sometimes they really qualify for more, but and we would be also another thing that I quite often say is we don't want to eliminate any buyers coming into the property, right? So if we
Yes.
price it right, we should be able to open the doors for all buyers to look at it and then draw out the best price. Anyone else want to contribute? No?
I mean, I would say to people or a seller that you only get one time to make an impression on somebody with a price.
I love that, Gary. I think that's great.
And if you overprice
great.
it from the start, you could end up potentially losing buyers right from the beginning. And we don't want to do that. We want to get as many showings. We want to get as many people into the door as possible, because the first couple of weeks are when the chances of you getting, it's the most excitement that you're going to get. The people are waiting for a house to come on the market, and that's your best opportunity to make a first impression with a price.
Right. That's a really good point. You have people that don't realize that, hey, that first week on the market really, especially in this market, sets the tone. That was an excellent point, Gary. Thank you for contributing.
Yeah, and this is the market where I think we as agents, I think we are confident, as long as the sellers listen to us and price the house aggressively, that we're able to say confidently that if we start at this price, we will most likely get an offer within the 2 weeks that we're on the market, and that's our target. So I think that's the type of market we're in right now. So, as agents, I think we can confidently say that, as long as the sellers are able to listen and agree with the strategy that we offer.
Excellent. Very good. Right.
If I
Okay.
could just add something that, I always tell my sellers that, who do you want to be in control of this transaction? Do you want the buyers to be in control of the transaction, or do you want to be in control? If you overprice it, you're telling the buyers, okay, come to me, you tell me what you're willing to pay, and we'll figure it out. You've given up your power to the buyer. If we price it aggressively, where we're drawing the people, drawing the buyers in, then they're going to fight amongst themselves to get this house. And you're going to be able to sit there and say, okay, this one gets it because I like their criteria, their price, their financing, their time frame the best, so that you're in control as opposed to the buyers. Did we lose you, Fran?
Hello?
Yeah, it seems like,
I think we lost Fran.
yeah.
Let me try to check in here.
I think she's frozen.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen again. I am actually I'm going to do this on my phone because I'm in a building where I'm not sure if the Wi-Fi is coming to this little office that they gave me to use today. Okay, the next question is, we think we offered too much money. They won the deal, and now they're saying to you, we think we offered too much money. What do we say?
Are you talking about the buyers?
Yes, the buyers. The buyers were in a multiple bidding situation. They've come to the point where now they're saying they won the deal, right? They got the offer after losing 10 other houses, and now they're saying, we think we offered too much money. Joe Daly, you have your hand up. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, go ahead. I don't hear Joe. Do I have anybody else that wants to step up?
I mean, I might say to them, you know, we're in a very competitive market right now, and it's been like this, and you know, you've lost multiple houses due to not having a high enough offer. Um, if you decide to go lower than what you think you offered, we could keep this vicious cycle could be happening time and time again.
Right. Good answer. Trying to turn it to let's turn it to a positive. Oh my God, this is so great. You finally got a house. That's a great house. And someone else want to comment?
Recording in progress.
No? I'm doing this on my phone now, so it's a little hard to see if anyone's hands are raised. So if you just want to unmute yourself and start speaking, that's great. Okay, Robert, what would you tell these buyers who have taken you all over Morris and Essex County, and now they've lost like 8 houses and they finally got one, and they come back to you with this the day after they get the house?
Well, you know, I might ask them, what makes you think that you have offered too much for this house? Was it this, we talked about this before you made the offer, that, you know, and you said you were comfortable with this price, and wanted to move forward with it. So what's changed overnight?
I'm going to do a little role playing with you, Robert. Well, I was talking to my dad, and he says that we're crazy. We offered too much money on this property.
Well, you know, that's a difficult situation. You know, I certainly wouldn't want to discuss your dad's philosophy on real estate. But the fact is that, you know, you and I went over the comps for this house, and we came up with a price that we felt was reasonable and you know, was acceptable to the seller. And you know, I don't. Parents are very protective of their children, and you know, so we understand that. But the fact remains that, you know, we're dealing in real estate, and as such, you know, as your realtor, you know, I'm perhaps in a better position to advise you on something like this.
Right. That's absolutely right. And also, one of the things, you know, drawing out the objections, I'll get to you in 1 second, Amy, is that you want to get all the objections out on the table. You know, like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that they were going to be helping you make this decision. Just remember, why don't they come? Look, if you got this deal, it looks like it's working out. But in the future, if they're going to be part of the decision making, just remember, they haven't seen all the homes that you lost already that maybe, or that you saw that weren't worth putting in an offer in, right? You need to really get the decision makers out of the box and see if they're part of it, then they need to be educated too. Amy?
Well, I had this, I mean, I wound up feeling guilty or bad because it was one of my first transactions that what if they paid too much, and you know, I didn't know, but I had educated them to a point, and they were doing their own due diligence where they felt really comfortable, and I didn't want to bring that to light that I was feeling bad, but you
Right.
know, they said that they knew going in and they wanted it. We had looked for over a year, and even if they did pay over, it was still a good price for the house with the comps. And so I feel like if we worked hard at educating our buyers, that possibly wouldn't happen, hopefully.
Right, right. I agree. We really, all of us worked very hard at trying to provide them with the best information to make the decision. I recently had this happen, so it's like hitting home to me too. And I felt how Amy felt, a little bit guilty, like, oh my God, I feel terrible that they feel like that. But or they may make comments like, well, sure, the seller's very happy. We paid them $50,000 more than they were asking. So we're starting to get into that little twist of a market that I don't really know if there's going to be a shift in how everything is going to go. It's been a seller's market for well over 2 years here, where prices have just escalated, and who knows if it's going to change. But I think that we have to take into consideration that, you have to go at them with all the different things. Like, well, if you were spending another year renting, you'd be spending like, $30,000 on renting. And that puts money in the landlord's pocket and not in your pocket. At least here you're starting to build your equity, and it's a great investment. It's a great house. And, I think that after a while, go
We're
ahead,
going,
Amy.
don't know. It's like an auction. You don't know what other people are bidding, per se. So
Right.
you're just going in with your best educated guess, and hopefully putting that amount on that house is worth it, and they're in there and they can live their lives and not have to stress about keep looking around.
Right. Right.
Fran, if I may,
Yes.
what I try to use, and I think this was already discussed, but obviously, the first question I'm usually asked with the buyer is, like, what should we offer? And I always say, what, let's take a look at the comps. And when I look at the comps, I show them, what houses were listed for, what they sold for, at least sometimes if I will go a year and even sometimes 2, if I know I have a buyer that's kind of worried about overpaying, and just show them like the appreciation rates over the last, 2 years. And if they decided to wait, what would be the risk, right? So are you going to pay more in a year because people that had that reservation last year are paying more this year? But in addition to that, I will add an escalation clause so that I explain to them, listen, if there was an offer that was just, you're going to go slightly higher, whatever you're comfortable with, right? We do it in increments of, I usually try to do like increments of 5,000. But we cap it, and I tell them, listen, if there's an offer that was there that was $5,000 less and the escalation clause came into effect, the attorneys, it goes to the attorney. So it's not like they're playing us, or you got, you overbidded. So those are some of the strategies I try to use, but just being confident, looking at the numbers, that it's not like try to take some of the emotion out of it and just look at it more statistically, if you will.
And that's a good point, because this is business. And though to them it's emotional, but this is business. If you can try to get them to look at the numbers from that perspective, that's what you really need to do. Sandy?
It's emotional for us too, right? So I think
Yeah.
when I get it from the numbers, it kind of, because I think we're all in the same positions. Like, who wants to, you're representing them and their best interests. So it's like, I want to feel confident also that I did everything to help them to put in the best offer that's going to get them the house. Because, if you don't give them enough information and they underbid and they keep losing a house, I mean, we know that in this market, they're likely going to pay more. I mean,
Right.
it's just, we don't have the inventory, and I don't see anything showing that we're going to get the inventory. When the inventory hits the market, new construction is not cheap.
Right. Right. Sandy?
Yes, hi. Yeah, this I'm Sandy. I just want to see for recently, I just had a one under contract. We did house inspection yesterday. Actually, the buyer's husband actually canceled the contract, and like a few days ago. Then I show them whatever Roberts give to us, the Excel sheet with the house, we have to see like how many square feet each one. Then we do for each square feet, how much is it? So I try to explain to them, look, this is the house we see, and this house, it was like only less than $250 for each square feet, compared to any other house we see. Anything else is the same condition, it's like 350 or 450 each square feet. In that way, to let them believe that, let them really see the real things that about the house we put offer on, get accepted. It's not expensive compared
Okay.
to whatever we see. So the Excel sheet really helped.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great approach. So you can sit down and show them not just the square footage, but the other comparables and stuff that, go along with it, because sometimes the square footage is really important, but it's not the only thing like a bank appraiser uses. But in trying to do an analogy for your clients, I think that's a great way to show them. When you lay it out on paper, they can see it, right? It makes it easier. They can see it, and they'll, be able to see it in on the paper, and then make a decision easier. You have to find your customers' comfort zone and what makes them feel comfortable having a conversation or putting it in writing. Sometimes they want you to put it in writing. And that's
Yeah, I
great.
did. I would just did the Excel sheet and take a screenshot and send to them, share to the husband and wife to explain to them. I say, you make decision. I just give you the result. Please, you make the decision. Then we go back to under contract again, like for the content.
Okay,
They change it a little bit. So
good. So you saved the
hopefully.
deal. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is a little commercial break here. I'm going to tell you that for those of you that are working on the Circle of Excellence applications, if you have sold a property and you don't see it reported sold in your name, not your listings, because those would be in your name, but on Garden State, if you have sold a property and you haven't seen it reported in your name, or it was reported wrong, don't wait till the end to try to get that corrected. Those corrections must be made by October 31st, which is this Thursday. So you need to reach out to your manager, and if you're having an issue with something that was reported improperly. So what is it going to take? It's going to take your manager now reaching out to the manager of the listing office, because they're the ones who have to institute the change on the Garden State MLS. So it's not as simple as making a phone call, but go through, check your sales, make sure if you feel you've sold something, no matter what MLS it's on, that it's reported properly in your name. Okay. And all right, let's continue. I just wanted to say that kind of like in the middle when we have mostly everybody here, so that you hear it and you take it to heart. You should be working on those Circle of Excellence applications are open. You can start it, you can revisit it, you can go back to it. In the meantime, you may discover that something is not in your name. Okay. Fran, did you have a question? Fran Tass? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Next question. Now you're at a listing appointment and the seller says to you, what if we find the buyer?
Yeah. So if the seller says, what if we find the buyer? Well, that has to be discussed at the listing agreement, at the time of the listing. But I find it unacceptable if you have somebody who may be interested. And sometimes some of the sellers do, we could have an exception, right? But even if we have the exception, there has to be a certain period where you can't give them forever to decide. So maybe like a week or two, and that would have to be noted on the listing agreement. But once we're listed, I am, regardless if you find the buyer or not, I will be due the commission because that's on the agreement.
Yeah, it's an exclusive right to sell.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. So what you might want to suggest, and Fran is absolutely right, I like doing it right at the beginning if this question comes up. what if we find the buyer? Hey, well, listen, if your buyer is willing to purchase it within 1 to 2 weeks of the house being listed, they can be an exception on the property. But let's think about why you hired me to represent you in this transaction. You know, quite often, if you're finding the buyer, you're going to have some kind of a relationship, a friend, a relative, or someone that is recommending that this buyer buy this house from you. So, number one, we don't want to just sell it to them without letting the house go on the market, because we want the true value of the house to come out when it's on the market. They could be offering you 500 and we could on the market get 550, which you will know is more than enough that's going to cover the compensation that's due to me as the listing agent and the buyer's agent. Another option is if you do find the buyer along the way, listen, I might be willing to represent you and to put the deal together, because there's so much that needs to be covered. That's part of the job that involves, as a listing agent, I'm marketing the house, I'm getting the house the most exposure because we want to get everybody to the house at the same time. We also want to follow up on the attorney review, make sure it's moving smoothly. Sometimes houses go under contract once, sometimes they go under contract 2 or 3 times. There's a lot that's involved in it, and the follow-up of it is really important. I think Rob was talking a little bit about on his mastermind last week, you know, the value of what we do. I mean, listen, I truly feel that there are lots of people out there who could write up a contract, especially our contract, because it's written by attorneys. It's the art of keeping the deal together and making sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing and following up. That is going to help to keep the deal together, handling and explaining things as they come up. Gary, you want to contribute anything? Your box is lit up. That's all I can see, but you're still muted. No? Okay. Okay. I think that, you can set the tone and make some kind of arrangement at the very beginning that if you find a buyer like within the first, 30 days, we will have an exception for a week, and then we can make a separate agreement on the compensation if you want me to handle it. But they can't work with another broker if I'm going to give you a special compensation. If they're working with another broker, that broker's going to be expecting to get the compensation that we're going to tell them is being offered out to everyone, right?
Well, the thing is if they're working with another agent, then you didn't find this buyer. So,
That's true.
my feeling is this, is that, once we sign a listing agreement, if someone comes along and, rings your bell or something and says, I see your house is for sale, then I would really just recommend to you that you give them my contact information and tell them that, well, I'd like you to speak with my agent, and he'll be happy to help you out.
Right. That's absolutely true. I mean, could they hear of a relative that maybe might all of a sudden be looking for a house? Yes, they could. But it's sometimes, we can't determine exactly where someone sees the property, right? Because we do once we list it in the multiple listing, it goes out everywhere.
Yeah.
And we get them the exposure that they need to get everybody to look at the house. So I think that, we have to be upfront with them. We have to make sure that they understand the terms and conditions so that there's no confusion as you go into the transaction. Okay, I think this is an easy one. So who's going to answer this for me? Maybe one of my agents that's on? How about Patrick Barada? Are you paying attention? The question is, you're at a listing appointment and they say, we'll list after the holidays. Okay. Can you chime in, Patrick? No?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Come on. What do you say to that?
I would say that it would be best to put it on now before the holidays, because people are out now searching and you would probably find the right buyer.
Okay. I think that's a good answer. Anybody else want to chime in about the market in this time of year? what are we looking at? If I have a buyer who is very serious about finding a home, we are looking even out this time of year because they are the most serious, committed buyers to buying a home if they're coming out during the holiday season in January when the snow's on the ground. I mean, look, I don't cherish the idea ever of putting on my boots and going out to show a house, but they're pretty serious if they're willing to go through all that. Wouldn't you agree? So you don't want to eliminate serious buyers. They are out there. We don't need to wait till after the holiday. Robert, what have you found in that experience?
Well, so there's a couple of things. First, in many cases, houses look best during the holiday season because they're decorated and, people, can see themselves celebrating the holidays in the house. And by the same token, to your point about, there's always people out who have to buy. I had a client call me up in the middle of a blizzard and say, we have to see the house that's for sale, fortunately, right across the street from their house, because they wanted to get it before somebody else did. So we all live in the same town, and I shoveled from my house to their house to this house across the street so that we could get in and see it. And they bought the house, and it was, if I remember correctly, $1.6 million. So there's always a reason to put your house on the market sooner rather than later. Just because the possibility exists, you could miss out.
Right. Absolutely. You want to make sure that, they understand really buyers are out there 365 days a year if we would allow them to be, I think, I mean, I've gone out on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve and showed homes or New Year's Day. I mean, so if you have, I welcome those buyers because they are the serious ones.
Yep.
May not be so happy about being there, but I welcome them.
I would say,
So-
I would always say, you might not get the quantity at that time, but you're gonna get quality.
That's a good point, Gary. I love that. I love that. Okay, this is one we should all pay attention to and have a really good response for.
You know what? Let me just add one more thing to that last point.
Okay.
My first manager, when I first became an agent, said to me, Christmas is a one-day holiday.
That's an interesting point.
It's so true because people are off for the holidays and they could be out looking for a new house. So,
Right. Sometimes it's hard to get things in with everyone's working schedules, right?
Yep.
So, okay, the next question, you are the listing agent, and this is the question that comes to you because there's a buyer. You and the other agent are with the same company. What will you do? No, I'm sorry. You're the listing agent and they're interviewing a few agents. Says you and the other agent are with the same company. What will you do differently for me? So let's say they're interviewing two agents from our company and we don't really know who the other person is, but what will you do differently?
Yes. But for this one, don't worry about it. You're not in trouble. They'll just like close it out the way it is. Yes. And if you can get that.
I think I would just start off with, it's not about what I would do differently, but let me share what I can do for you. More than like, trying to be better than somebody else, but not really having that understanding what they do. But I just want to share with you what I do for all of my clients, and we'll go step by step.
Right. You want to just speak about your own value proposition and what you offer them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's an excellent way to to move forward on something like that, because we certainly did, you know, say, oh my gosh, that's great. It's so great to hear that you called the best company that's out there to talk about listing your home. And we have a lot of great agents, but let me tell you about what I do. And then you can, you know, then they can determine what the difference is and what you're willing to do as opposed to what someone else might be willing to do, because you're going in there blind. You really don't know what the other person is offering either. So that's a great time. All right, the next question is, I'm going to hire a discount broker. Let's be nice about the answer. Okay, I'm going to hire a discount broker. What would you say?
You get what you pay for.
Or I consider myself a full service real estate professional. The term discounts may, you know, have a different kind of meaning.
So I would, you know, lots of people say,
I don't
if
cut
you're,
corners.
yeah, like, would you go to the dollar store to buy your roast beef for, you know, Thanksgiving dinner, you know, buy your turkey for Thanksgiving dinner? I mean, you want to make sure that you're going to have someone who's going to put in the effort to actually get the home sold. And, you know, sometimes you don't have that opportunity to know who the other person is for sure. And we don't want to ethically and, you know, professionally, we don't want to put down another broker, but sticking to, listen, there are certain things that I can do as opposed to what a discount broker might be able to do for you. Let me show you what I can do for you, right? Like Fran said, I've got a whole big company behind me. I mean, easily, if you don't have the background with listings and stuff to show them, you should be able to show them, you know, that globally Remax, the reach that we have, and all of the information, you know, the company backing is gonna, in itself, is gonna help sell their home, right? So, and how you might have a network, you know, you're actively involved. You might have a network of people that are very committed to the industry, that know that when I'm listing something that it's a great opportunity to do business with other people, right? Okay, now we have a buyer. We are just looking right now. What would we say? Go ahead.
Just for a second here.
Good, Robert. I can't see you because I'm on my phone.
Okay, it's all right. You know, something that Rob always talks about, you know, if they say that they want to hire discount brokerage, and, you know, my follow-up might be, well, could you tell me why? And chances are they're going to say, because I want to save money on the commission. And then, you know, I kind of look at them and say, well, let me ask you this. If you had to have surgery on your heart, would you go for the surgeon who was the cheapest surgeon, or would you want the best surgeon? And that's the same outlook that we have in real estate. You know, we are who we are, and we earn what we earn. Let me show you what I can do, what I'll do for you, that will be, I'm sure, dramatically different than what the discount broker would offer you.
Great. That's a good, very good point. Let's look at the, go ahead, Fran, go ahead.
No, I just said it was good. I agree with what he said.
Okay, let's look at, we have buyers now, and we're having, you know, they have to sign the buyer agency agreement, exclusive buyer agency agreement. And they say to you, but we're just looking right now. How do we handle that objection? Someone want to take a stab at it?
Well, if we can establish what the criteria is that they would be looking for whenever it is that they are ready to buy, then it leads into a conversation about what if I was to show you 3 houses, today that meet all of your criteria, would you be willing to move forward now? So that you wouldn't miss out on these opportunities for houses that are exactly what you're looking for.
Right. I think that's an excellent point. I know you say, well, what is your time frame? When do you think you're ready to move? And the next question is, do you have to move? Are you in a lease? Do you have a time frame that you need to adhere to? Because it takes a few months to find the right house sometimes and then and then to actually win the bidding war so that you can get into the house. So when you say you're just looking right now, what if you found the perfect house tomorrow? Would you be ready to make an offer on it if it met all your criteria? Would you want to lose it? If it's like one of the best houses that's out there, would you want to lose that property, or do you think you'd be ready to move forward on it? No, nobody? Okay, I'm going to turn the tables now. Does anyone have a question of something that they would like us to try and answer for them?
I thought the last question that you asked was different, and I would like an answer to that. When you meet a buyer who's and you're asking them to sign the buyer's agreement, and say, "Well, we're just looking." What do you say to them? Even just looking, we're not really ready. We don't need an agent.
Well, what would you say? We all know what we really need to say at this point, right?
I know what I say. I'm
But
just curious what
you know
you
what?
guys
Yeah.
recommend. What
So
you
if
would say.
if they don't want to sign the buyer's agency agreement because they're just looking, but you just remind them, right now the rules have changed where we do need it signed. If not myself, if you go to the next person, they'll also require it. So if you don't sign it now, it'll still be mandatory regardless of who you go to. And like I shared from the beginning that, we sign off now, but you later on, if the relationship is not where it needs to be, or you change your mind for whatever reason, you have the right to cancel. So it's not like you're agreed, that you don't have a choice even later on. It's just that to start this process of seeing homes, you need to sign this. And I don't usually get too many objections, as long as we disclose, we're upfront and honest and kind of, just presented in a professional manner. I haven't had any objections.
Audrey?
So I have one person who has a lease that expires next year. And she's been very much online looking, and she's actually requested showings. And I told her about the new law for signing with, whoever is going to show her a property. So she told me this week that she found an agent. She actually told me the first name that told her that she can take her out to show her properties and she doesn't have to sign a contract. So I went ahead to tell her that that agent is actually breaking the law. And I said to her, who knows what else she could be doing wrong. So if you want to work with someone like that, then that's up to you. But she could get into a lot of trouble, including losing her license. And I'm not willing to do that for anyone. So I said, when you're ready to do the right thing, I'm here. You know where to find me. That was the end of that. So there are agents out there probably that are telling people who aren't ready yet. I guess maybe they're of the mindset that they're not ready to put an offer on something, and they're showing them houses without signing anything.
So what happens is, if we are the listing agent or the listing company, and let's say I have 5 rentals that are listed within the company, you can, as an agent for the seller, show those listings without having that exclusive agent representation, tenant representation form sold. But it's not a good habit to get into. You really need to convince them, like you said, Audrey. And I think you did the right thing, and hopefully they'll come back to you. And if you have a history with this person, you might want to reiterate and say, listen, we've worked together for 2 years and you've always wound up finding really good rentals. You might want to email them a copy of the law, which can be found at New Jersey Realtor /CPEA online. You might want to forward them some documentation because you are the expert here. The other person is obviously not the expert. And you want to make sure that they're, you know, even though their agent isn't informing them, we can't really get into anything about their agent, but we want to say, listen, this is how we do business, and we do business above board. We follow the rules, we follow the law, and we work really hard to find what you're looking for, right? And I think that, you know, there isn't anything that you can do if they absolutely refuse, unless you are showing them one of our listings, because you don't need to have that signed if you are showing a Remax Select listing. Now, if you're showing them one of our partner office listings, that's a different story. But if Rob is a broker of record, and let's say Fran Tack in Fort Lee has a listing for rent, if we're showing that listing, it's a disclosed dual agency because we're also working on behalf of the seller. So I hope I didn't confuse anyone with that. But, you know, so this person, they probably don't have a handful of rental listings and they're just choosing not to do business the right way. But eventually, hopefully it will catch up with them. You know, I think Rob had said we want to make sure we're working, you know, with integrity when we're doing our business. We want to make sure that we're being forthcoming to all of the clients that are out there, and developing some kind of a relationship or conversation with them so that they know that we're being honest and bringing them a true great service. Well, Rob didn't say all that, but maybe at several different times he did, to you know, to know that we work very hard for them. We all work really hard for them.
So let me ask you a question. A buyer can just go to open houses and not have to sign anything to look at open houses, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right. But you have to have the notice there. And I wouldn't send my buyers unprotected to an open house. My buyers, they say to me, oh, we want to go see this open house. I say, I'm going with you. And I'm going with you because we need to see the property should they decide to like it, to make an offer on it. You know, we really need to be, you know, involved in the transaction. We just can't let them go roaming out on open houses by themselves, because you just never know when the right house is going to click. Very rarely, or if I'm stuck, I will call the listing agent and I will say, I'm sending my clients over to your open house. Is that okay? I still do that. Just a little bit of professional courtesy and relationship building with the listing agent, right? Okay, does anyone else have another question? We have about 8 minutes left, so if you've been having it.
Hi, this
Yeah,
is Cindy.
Sandy.
Because sometimes I couldn't go to the open house, so I let my clients go first, then I go after when I'm available too. Is that okay too? So I give
Yeah.
it after.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, you just want to make sure that you're seeing that property, because you're signing the seller's disclosure, you know, on that property when you get it, which is required by law. And when you sign that disclosure, hopefully, according to Barry Goodman at State, you're walking around that property and looking at the outside and the inside. You're not a home inspector, but if there's something so obvious, I'm sorry, I keep getting messages on my phone. If there's something so obvious that, you know, you think you should point out to your clients before they're going to make the offer, you want to make sure that you're doing your job. You know, you just might say, hey, you know, when you have your home inspection, let's point this out to the home inspector. Let's have that person take a look at it and make sure that it is okay. Right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else have a question? Someone's saying in the chat, if you give your business card, oops, I took myself off the screen. There we go. If you give your business card, I don't see the whole chat, what it says. Can someone else see it and read it?
If you give your clients your business card to show to the listing agent open house.
Okay, you can do that. You need to prepare them for a little bit more. You need to tell them that now, when you're going to open houses, you need to make sure the listing agent is post a notice outside that the property that they're going to be looking at is represented by the listing agent. So you want to make sure you explain what's going on. You also want to tell your clients, listen, if you have any questions, come back to me with the questions. That's my job. I'll call the listing agent. I'll want to go and see the property. I'm going to want to make sure I get you the answers that you need. I'll get you the seller's disclosure. I don't want you to disclose your motivation to the listing agent. I don't want you to disclose maybe that you've lost a few houses already, because that shows that, you know, you're having a hard time negotiating, or if you were to come in with an offer, it might not be the best offer. You want to prepare them. They should not be going in there and having open conversations, because those conversations, as we all know, and as the notice says, can be discussed with the seller, right? So it's okay to send them if you have to, but just be careful about educate them a little bit about going to an open house. Janine, do you have, I don't see you in the picture. Does anyone else have anything they want to ask, or we can wrap this up and just remember that you are going to go today. If you think you qualify for the Circle of Excellence, you're going to check your listing, your sales, and make sure that they have been reported properly in your name. You don't want to wait. You want to give whoever your manager is enough time to reach out to the other side and make sure that they are able to get it changed if it's not reported in your name. Sometimes the listing agents make mistakes. They can't find your number on the garden state. They can't find you on the garden state. You want to make sure you're getting credit for that sale, and it cannot be changed after October 31st. Don't wait till 4 o'clock on October 31st, because it's probably not going to happen at that point. You have to be proactive with this to make sure that you're getting everything in ahead of time. Okay. Thank you for joining the Zoom today. Donna will be back next week. Yay. And she will take it from here, probably with some more .loop. And if you have any questions, anything quirky going on in .loop, I think it's working really well, but I did experience 1 or 2 things that are off a little bit at this point, and for no reason they are off. You need to reach out to your manager, let them know what's going on, see if they can help you work through it, and then if not, they will send a message to Adona to get it adjusted. Okay, thank you for all those that contributed. I appreciate you being here today. I appreciate you helping.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
one, everybody.
Bye-bye.